In this video, I'm gonna share 5 essential tips for filmmakers to elevate their storytelling. And by the end of this video, you'll have a skill set and a knowledge and a toolkit for creating videos that keeps your audience emotionally hooked. Let's dive in. The first tip for better storytelling is start with a strong concept. Every great story on film starts with a strong concept. It's the foundation of your film and it needs to be clear, engaging, and honestly, easily explainable. This is especially true when it comes to making documentaries. I just recently finished up a documentary series called From the Ground Up, which is about 4 beginner cyclists as they train to tackle one of the hardest gravel cycling races in the country. I also did a documentary about a mountain guide who is training to get his international mountain guiding certification. Another easily explainable topic. One of my favorite documentary series I make is about 3 surfers who share positive, uplifting stories through the lens of surf adventure. These concepts and a strong concept include a relatable protagonist, a compelling conflict, and a unique setting. These elements can really help set your story apart. So before committing to one idea, brainstorm a variety of different concepts. Refine each one until you land on something compelling. A lot of these documentary series didn't start out that way. The series that I'm making about the 3 surfers sharing uplifting environmental stories through the lens of surf adventure started out as a pretty uncompelling story idea of me and my 2 friends going on surf trips. This was not a compelling story. It became engaging and interesting once we started introducing conflict, traveling to remote, interesting locations, and having relatable characters and environmental issues that we focus on in the series. So even if you don't start off with a strong concept, you can continue to refine it and get a better storyline. So when you begin the storytelling process, you dive into what's working. The second tip to creating more compelling stories is develop relatable characters. People connect with characters, not just visuals. It's easy as a filmmaker to get caught up in what looks good. We are here because we like cameras and we like lights and we like going out into beautiful places and capturing amazing footage. But the visuals are not enough to keep people hooked. If your audience doesn't care about your characters, they won't care about your story. When I go through my storytelling process, when possible, I actually like to have a pre-screening before the film goes out, where the first and most important question I ask the audience that I invited to see this screening before it's released is, are these characters likable? Are they relatable? Because if your characters aren't relatable or likable in your project, people will likely not resonate with it and your film might fall flat. There are lots of editing techniques and storytelling techniques you can do to make your characters more likable if they're likable in real life, or you can choose to highlight certain aspects of their personality that comes across in a video very nicely. I feel very grateful being in the adventure filmmaking space because I'm often invited to make films about professional athletes or individuals that are already pretty relatable and likable. So a lot of my work is done for me by having people that are already really amazing and interesting. But if you don't have a character that's relatable and interesting, consider ways that you could make them more engaging or find a different subject. If your character isn't strong, your film's not strong. To make a person more relatable and likable, dive into their character development. Give your characters depth. Show their motivations, show their flaws, show how they grow throughout the story. Those imperfections in people and those motivations and aspirations are what make people relatable and what makes characters likable. In the documentary series From the Ground Up, the key to success was in these characters' journeys. An everyday person striving for something extraordinary, something that they thought and everybody thought was impossible. The audience connected with these characters because they saw a little piece of themselves or a little bit of who they wanted to be in these people. And even if your character's backstory doesn't make it deeply into the film, knowing your characters inside and out can help develop them and allow them to flourish on screen. And in order for a character to flourish, this leads into tip number 4, focus on structure and pacing. A well-structured story with good pacing can keep an audience hooked. If you've never seen any of these Netflix sports documentaries, I recommend checking them out, especially the first 1 or 2 minutes of every one of these documentary series. They have incredible structure and storytelling that gets you excited and plugged in to watch more. Sure, without structure, for an intro or for your entire film, the film can feel really disjointed. And without proper pacing, you can lose your audience's attention. So I would consider implementing a classic 3-act structure. Every great story has 3 acts, a beginning, a middle, and an end. In each beginning, middle, and end, you're setting up different acts and different stories of the characters as they go through their journey. This framework can create a flow, but it also creates a clear enough structure that allows you to follow as an editor, as a director, and as an audience member. You know, rules are made to be broken, and there are obviously instances in which a flashback can be really important or foreshadowing can provide some value to your storytelling. But I think in general, having a structure of which scene goes where and why that scene is in a specific place in your film can allow things to flow a little bit more easily than if you were to just chuck footage at random places, have a voiceover, and call it good. This structure and this pacing can begin way back even in the pre-production stage. Before you even pick up the camera to start filming, you can lay out what the story is that you want to tell. When I made my documentary called Keep Up about an Ironman athlete and professional musician, Ryan Kinder, who's based in Nashville, who was recording his second country rock album while training for the Ironman World Championship, we had a structure in place of what the film would look like before we were even done filming. The beginning was going to be him recording in Nashville, setting the stage for his life as a musician, showcase a little bit of his training. In the middle, have music experts and historians talk about the relationship between music and label, as Ryan Kinder had been dropped by Warner Music. Then we're going to go into how he balances his training, and then finally it's going to be race day, and the end is going to be culminating on race day and his emotions and thoughts around that. That was the clear structure. However, once we started filming, things happened in Ryan Kinder's life. He got hit by a car, he broke a collarbone. That plan was sort of thrown up into the air, and we had to continue to work on that pacing and work on that structure once the filming was done, because some things in the pre-production document had now changed to be something entirely different. But by laying out this structure beforehand, we had something to work off, so by the end of the film, the structure was clear, engaging, and flowed nicely. It's easy to think of these decisions being made in the editing room all the time, but in an ideal world, you can create the storyline up front, go out, film it, edit it to that storyboard, and create a very meaningful, engaging film.
He calls me, and I thought he was joking, and he said, "I think I broke my collarbone." And I'm like looking around like, "Oh, funny, where are you?" And he's like, "No, seriously, I broke my collarbone." He performed that night. I know I walked into the emergency room and I said, "You're still singing tonight." And he did. It's probably like the highest notes he's hit in a long time because he was in so much pain, but of course he did a great job.
In filmmaking, visual storytelling is key. It's so easy to rely on voiceovers to move your story forward, but when possible, show, don't tell. Using visual elements like framing and lighting and composition can convey emotions and storytelling just as much as words can. There's a reason that when you watch an amazing music video, you are drawn into the storyline of that music video, not through the words that they're singing, but through the visuals you're watching on screen. The same as those music videos applies to documentary and narrative storytelling as well. For every piece of dialogue in my films, I always ask myself, is this a necessary piece of information, or can the audience gather this from the visuals? For instance, I don't need to explain that in the morning I get up, I lace my shoes, and I go out for a run. I can just show that I get up, lace my shoes, and go for a run. You can gather that information through the visuals on screen without the need to over-explain things. Audiences are smart. We underestimate how much an audience can really understand when things are communicated properly through visual storytelling. When I interview people, I'm often looking for a mix of factual information and emotional information. Factual information are things that describe where they are, what they're doing, and can help drive the plot of the film forward if we don't have the visuals to accompany it. However, a lot of my storytelling style, and if you want to check out some of my documentary and adventure films in the link in the description on brucesmith.com, I'd recommend checking it out and seeing this for yourself. But in a lot of my films, I will have emotional story beats happening while visually we are seeing what is happening as they go through their day. So I often lean more into the emotional storytelling side rather than communicating factually what's happening in their lives. There's of course times and places to communicate factually what's happening so people know the season that they're in, the type of rock climbing route they're about to attempt, or any other crucial piece of information that can't be gathered visually. But I challenge you to focus only on the necessary dialogue and let those visuals carry forward. Finally, this transitions into my last point of building emotional stakes. For your audience to care about your story, they need to be emotionally invested. And that's where emotional stakes comes in, creating conflict, tension, and eventually, ultimately, resolution. Conflict is what drives your story forward, but resolution is what leaves a lasting impact. Your audience should feel the highs and lows of your emotional journey that your characters are taking. In one of my films called The Summit Within, which you can watch for free here on this YouTube channel about veterans using nature as a form of recovery, there were so many emotional highs and lows of that film. These are veterans with PTSD or terminal cancer whose last time in the outdoors is happening right there in front of my camera. And by taking your audience on this emotional journey and showing the highs and lows of the different character and building those emotional stakes, it's not necessarily what happens when they summit the mountain physically, it's what happens emotionally that keeps audience members hooked. I feel like I'm very sensitive emotionally, and when I edit these films and these documentaries, I like to say that if you cried watching it, I 100% cried most days editing it, which can be really emotionally draining for sure behind the camera. But I think as a storyteller, when the film's done and I watch it at a film festival or on TV, and I'm so proud of what I created because I'm invested emotionally into what these characters are feeling, because I brought out those emotions and created that conflict and ultimately created that resolution. When it comes to building these emotional stakes, depending on what topic your film is, I would recommend focusing on universal themes like loss and love, perseverance, and hope. These themes resonate deeply with audiences and can connect people from all different types of walks of life. And remember, storytelling is what makes your film stand out. And storytelling is like any skill. You have to practice it and practice it and practice it in order to improve. I've been making films for a long time, and I am still continuously growing to be a better storyteller. But I hope these 5 tips are something that you can carry with you into your next project. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out other videos on this channel or subscribe, I have a new video coming every week. I love you. I'm proud of you for learning something new today. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.